Hi, everyone. This is Michael from IE, and I'm here for yet another episode of the Inspired Adventures podcast. And once again, today, I am with Dr. Andy Coleman, chair of the biology department at Talladega College and leader of the McNair scholars we've heard so much about in our previous podcasts. So, hey, Andy, you're back.
I am back. I'm still waiting on the check.
Still waiting on the check. Well, don't worry. Okay. I will send you a check. That's not, no questions or problems with that. Perfect. Well, okay. Now we started off with that. We are here today, though, to talk with Andy a little bit about our trip this past March, where we brought 5 students from Talladega College down to Belize to continue to work on their research projects as part of their McNair Scholar Program. And we're going to hear a little bit about those students, but also we want to talk a lot today about these research projects because we've had some pretty interesting success stories coming out of a couple of them, and I want to make sure that Andy shares those. So before we begin, okay, how's everything going with McNair at Talladega now?
Good, good. Several of those students, 4 out of the 5 students that came with us to Belize this past spring, has graduated and going on to greener pastures.
Right.
And so, looking for a new batch of students for the 2025 trip.
Great. And those are some pretty fun students. We had a really good time with them. They came from pretty diverse backgrounds, and the fifth student though was just a sophomore, so it's not like she didn't graduate, right? So
No, yes, yep. So she's still working towards that degree. So yep.
I'd love to see her come back too because I really had a lot of fun working in stream ecology with her.
Hmm.
So each year, Andy, before you go down, you usually try to identify some projects for them to do. So these students are just remind everybody these students are not coming down just for a tour of Belize. They're actually coming down to satisfy their graduation requirements as McNair scholars, correct?
Yeah. So as part of the program, participants are required to execute a research project that they help develop. They execute, collect data, analyze data, and then write up. And so the students who have gone to Belize so far have done that, and so we will continue with that. And these projects are great in that they are things that the students probably have never dreamt that they would ever be working on. And it gives them real life skills that they can then go apply to whatever career path they choose. But also it gives them some lifelong memories. And so it's a great experience for them. I am just grateful to IE to give us that opportunity to do that.
You're very welcome because I'll tell you what, it really has become the highlight of my year for going down there. I mean, just when you experience Belize through the eyes of a student, I think it's a whole different experience for you, and the wonder and the things that they see. And not only that, getting to know these young women. We've now had seven students down there with us, and we're
Yes.
looking to
Yep.
improve that even for more for 2025. So today, I want to really talk about these research projects because with time they're kind of morphing and becoming something really pretty interesting. So I'm going to let you talk about it. I think we're going to start off with maybe the trail cams, the camera traps.
Yeah, I mean, this is a project that kind of started it all for us in our partnership. I had mentioned on a previous episode that I kind of reached out to you during the COVID year when I just started at Talladega. I was in my first year, and I needed virtual research projects, and oh man, that is a tough ask. But I kept up with you and your colleagues at IE and all the great work that y'all have been doing down in Belize, and saw that y'all been putting out these trail cams, and so I just reached out and said, hey, I have a student that needs a virtual research project. Could she analyze your trail cam photos? And you were gracious enough to allow for that. And so that was back in 2020. And the Eliza who just went with us in March, she is the 5th student who's been working on this long-term
Great.
project, and this is just a really interesting project, documenting jaguar populations in areas that they hadn't really been studied before, sort of on the periphery of public lands and private property. And that has been documented as being an important or really a critical piece of the puzzle for their future survival is, because they have such large home ranges, they need to be able to cross public and private property, and so to be able to do that, to get these really important data, and now that we have several years of data, you and I are talking about taking that next step of publishing, because we want to get it out into the scientific community, communicate to those who are doing the same research in other areas of Belize, communicate it to the government, and those who are tasked with managing this endangered species. And so I'm just excited for where the project has come and where it's going to go in the future.
And that's great. I'm so excited by this because when we first started doing the trail cameras and the camera traps, they were really for educational resources, just to show people what was in the jungle. And it's really changed. My daughter Kayla, who's a biologist at IE, she's worked on this with you, and I know she's learned a lot about the process of how to identify these jaguars. But just make sure we have this. We're not just looking for jaguars, though, are we?
Oh, no, no. I mean, yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and kind of to add to your point, I mean, I'm a turtle biologist and I'm studying jaguars. I mean, I think that's
Yep.
freaking awesome. And one of the great things I tell people about science and teaching science is I love learning just as much as I do teaching, and to be able to kind of get into this world and learn about another a species, and not only this species but the community of which it is a part of, because like you say, we're not just looking at jaguars, we're looking at the other big cat species, ocelots, pumas, jaguarundis. We're looking at documenting their potential prey species, peccaries, looking at tapir, all these different observations. Again, it can add to the wealth of knowledge that's already there, but also we're doing it in areas that hasn't really received a lot of attention, and so how can our kind of piece of the pie, add to the successful management of these species?
And these cameras do present some challenges for us too. First of all, sometimes identifying things like you're saying. One of my favorite things about the camera traps is the what the heck is that moment. Okay, when you're trying to either identify a piece of an animal, or because they don't always just stand up in front of the camera and pose
Hmm.
for you, or it's just something like teras, tapirs, curassows. I mean, there's all sorts of animals and that we've seen that I've never seen before in my life. And I've never
Yeah,
seen, and from a
yeah.
student perspective, they say, "What's that?" And we say, "Well, we got to get out the book and figure it out, aren't we?"
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't have necessarily learning the birds of Belize in my future, or the small mammals. But I mean, that's the cool thing about this is the opportunities that it has opened up for us.
So we've done this trip now twice. Well, we've been doing the camera traps for a while. We've done it twice now with students there. What would you like to accomplish in the 2025 trip?
Yeah, just continue, setting cameras, maybe even in new areas, within the larger properties that we've been studying, and get new students on the project.
Right. So I'm going to give you another challenge. We heard about this the last time we were down there. We every once in a while we hear about these black jaguars. Okay. And they're kind of like this mythical creature, although they do exist, right? Everybody says they've seen one. Okay, but nobody actually knows exactly where they saw it at. It usually is, right? But this time we've actually had a second sighting just a couple miles from where we originally heard about the black jaguar, which is right alongside the Saboon River. So it would be kind of nice someday to get one of these onto a camera, okay, especially if we now know that it's in this certain area. We do know they move obviously, but it's always be a nice challenge. I think that if we could actually get a black jaguar on a camera, we just retire at that point. Just say,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you would hear me screaming from Alabama all the way into
exactly.
Carolina. Yeah, yeah,
It'd
yeah.
be definitely a career moment. Okay, so our second project is one that you are actually very well trained for, been training your entire life for, and that is the turtle monitoring project. So I want to hear like what are the students doing and where is this going for you?
Yeah, so when I kind of felt like we would be able to get some trips going down there, I wanted to okay, let's see what turtles are down there, and so I was able to get permits for the past 2 years to get students trapping turtles. So we have been kind of focused on aquatic habitats that are near our you know, places where we stay that mostly in Saboon River watershed. And so we go out there, we set traps, and then the turtles that we catch, we identify them, we measure them, and then we also tag them or mark them, so that if we catch them again in the future, we're able to say, hey, we caught this, at this point in the past. Let's see how much it's grown. And interestingly, the first place we trapped this year, we had a recapture of a
Mhm.
turtle that we caught last year, and so that's always exciting to see. And so what I want to do is just again expand the knowledge on turtle populations in Belize and share that information with others that are doing similar research and share that with the managers of those natural resources.
And we're trying to expand that monitoring project out a little bit. Andy actually set me up to go down in May when I was down there for my trip to do some turtle collecting, which is pretty brave of Andy. Okay, that it actually let me into his research project to harvest turtles. Okay, and but that didn't really go well, mostly because some of the conditions down there were absolutely some of the worst we've seen in a long time. They were experiencing a multi-month drought. There was a lot of problem with fires and excessive heat, and many of the habitats were completely dried up or not basically not usable. And I had this question for Andy, and I'll let Andy answer it again. I mean, what usually happens to turtles during these times? I mean, they must be able to survive drought conditions if they're turtles. They're very successful animals, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's different species can have different responses, but more than likely what they did was they, found, sort of muddy habitats where they could kind of bunker down and wait till when environmental conditions improve. Some species may have left those aquatic habitats that were drying up and have found refuge in more terrestrial habitats. And so it just kind of depends on the species, but having long-term data, you can ask those kind of bigger ecological and evolutionary questions on how they respond to environmental disturbances and how those populations can rebound. And so it'll be interesting when we go back next year and go to the same spots and do the same trapping methods. Do we see new individuals? Do we see some of the recaptured individuals? How did they respond to this disturbance?
And that's the way I think that science works, right? I mean, you're often responding to something that you didn't expect, right? We weren't expecting to see this. Okay, we're expecting to find turtles. That's what
Abs-
we found out.
abs- yep, absolutely. A number of my projects in the past have not begun with a preconceived question. It's more like, okay, started with observations, like, and then why? Why are
Right,
we seeing what we're seeing?
right.
And go on from there.
It was really interesting, and I can't wait to go back and see what we do catch. When we go back and set them up again for next year, or maybe even later this year if I head back down. The third project is relatively new for you, okay, and it really comes down to something that we've been doing at IE for a number of years down there with previous student groups, but it was water quality monitoring. And so, what led you to this? Okay, this idea, and tell us a little bit about what you'd like to be able to do down there with it.
Yeah, well, with taking more students down there, I wanted to try to think about what more in-country projects we could do. And I know you communicated to me in the past that this is something that y'all have done before, looking at aquatic invertebrate communities as an indicator of water quality in different spots. And so, I said, well, why don't we do that and see what we see? And we could even compare what we're if we do it at the same sites or some of the same sites that you have done in the past, what did we see this year versus what have y'all seen in the past, and were there any changes and what may have prompted those changes?
And I think it's really important because we have been doing these type of macroinvertebrates surveys for a long time down there. But the area along the Saboon River where we've been working is really recently undergone a very drastic agricultural change. Okay, what was basically citrus is now being pretty much farmed for corn, a very different crop. Okay, probably going to end up with a lot more sedimentation and things ending inside the rivers themselves. And so it'll be interesting to see how that works out overall. And the fun thing about that part of the project is, first of all, it was very warm, okay, as it always is in Belize in March, and it was kind of fun getting out into the streams. It was nice and cool. I can't remember the student's name who was working on it, but we could not get her out of the stream, right? Because
Yeah,
every time she turned,
Robriana.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was it. Yep.
yeah, Robriana was her name, and yeah, and that's a great thing. You love when a student really latches on to his or her project, and they may have some uh, concern or trepidation at first, but if they can really dig in and really find that enthusiasm for the project, and that's such a great feeling as a research mentor, as a teacher, and she did. I mean, she really jumped in once she kind of uh, got some more comfort in being in the habitat, and I think she did a great job.
I do too. I think they all did a great job for their projects, and so glad to hear that four of them are done, and maybe the other one will come back with us again to work on the project or teach some others how to do that.
Yeah, yeah,
So we are heading back in March 2025, hopefully, and
yep,
with the next generation of McNair scholars from Talladega College. This is not the last time we're going to hear from Andy, though, for a while, because in season 2 of our podcast, which is beginning next month, we're going to be talking about sharing science. And one of the projects we're going to be talking about is Andy's Urban Turtle Project, in which he runs basically in Birmingham, Alabama, to teach people about basically the turtles that are found in their local streams. And I think Andy will have some
yeah,
surprises for us. So
yep. It'll be good, and it's been a great project. One that kind of just sort of hit me one day and said, "Hey, I need to put these turtle skills to work." And so it's I've enjoyed doing it. This is my 6th year, and it's so much fun.
yeah, it's a great project, and I can't wait to talk more about it and about that type of communication. So, Andy, do you have anything left to share with us before we let you go for the day? Or
No, I'm just excited for the 2025 trip and getting back down to Belize. It's such a great country and beautiful.
yep, yeah. Thank you, and thanks to all of our partners in Belize for helping us out with these projects. And I can't wait to see what we can do next year as well.
Yep, yep. A huge thank you to IE and the Belize Zoo, all the partners that we go down there and stay with. And it's just like I said, without all of your work and contributions, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And so I'm just forever grateful.
Yeah, we're very lucky. We have some excellent guides down there. Jerson at Classic Expeditions Belize, who would be lost if we didn't have him down there helping us on things, and Five Blue Lake National Parks and a number of others, Arzari resorts. So, okay, Andy, well, that's great. I'll let you get back to it, and I will be talking with you soon, and we'll be in Belize before you know it.
All right, can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you go, I want to thank you for listening to Season 1 of the Inspired Adventures podcast. We've learned a lot about podcasting over the past couple of months, and we're excited to bring you Season 2 starting next month with some new features designed to engage an even broader audience. So please feel free to share our podcast with anybody you know, or if you'd like to participate in our podcast or would like to have us on a guest, please go to our website and contact us. We'd love to hear from you.